Hi, this is Chatterboxing. I'm Sean, and I want to talk today about this situation with Kell, Brook, Errol, Spence, and Amir Khan. I mean, I made a few videos about this, talked about it a few times, but it's a trending topic, so to speak, at the moment, so I want to give my thoughts on it. Well, let's start with the background to it. Towards the end of last year, my understanding was that Kell Brook was going to fight Errol Spence. He was his mandatory. He was staying at welterweight, he could defend his title. That's what he said. That's what Eddie Hearn said. So I thought that was what was going to happen. Then we heard rumblings of Amir Khan against Kell Brook. Apparently, Amir Khan wanted to fight. Kell Brook obviously wanted it. Eddie Hearn, pound signs rolling around his eyes. I was a bit sceptical. I didn't think that Amir Khan really wanted it. I think the history has proven that. I thought that he saw this as a safe way to pretend that he wanted to fight, to kind of save a bit of face within British boxing because of the way he's perceived in British boxing with regards to this fight over a number of years. So I thought that he knew the situation with the IBF, he knew how strict they were, he knew Kell Brook didn't want to vacate his title, he knew there was a lot of pressure on Kell Brook to fight Errol Spence. So I think he was saying this knowing that it wasn't going to happen, but trying to make it look as if he was up for it. Kind of like if you watch a football match and you see someone pretending they want to fight someone and they got all their teammates holding them back and they're really as if they're really going to do something, but you know that they're not. That's the sort of how I saw this. I also thought it was a way to deflect attention away from the kind of scandal in the tabloids to do with his wife and his family. I don't actually read any of these newspapers, so I don't know the details of it, but I am aware there's some kind of scandal there. So I think possibly it had something to do with that as well. Listen, I can't pretend that I know for a fact what Amir Khan is thinking, but that's my suspicion, based on what I've seen, based on listening to him speak, based on observing his behaviour over the years. That's how I interpret it. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's what I think. So with that in mind, if I was Kell Brook, I would just forget about Amir Khan. I don't think that he wants to fight. I saw his interview with, I think it was ES News, and he was talking about, oh yeah, I'm going to maybe fight at the end of the year. Kell Brook, I've heard that he's going to try and duck Errol Spence, and I don't respect someone who gives up his belt. This is in the same interview as like really bigging up Canelo, by the way. So, make what you want to of that. But it was pretty clear that he was trying to sort of amp up the pressure on Kell Brook to fight Errol Spence and trying to basically hide behind Errol Spence. That's how I see it anyway. So if I was Kell Brook, I'd just forget about it. It's not going to happen. Yeah, lots of people in Britain want to see it. Yeah, potentially it's going to be loads of money, but it's just pretty much a bit of a pipe dream right now. Amir Khan doesn't want to get knocked out by Kell Brook after all the stuff he's spoken over the years, and he's always, he's still going to say all this stuff. He can still, even though he's blatantly avoided the fight, in his mind, he can still try and discredit someone who he doesn't want to fight. So I don't really understand that myself, but it obviously works for him. So it's not going to happen, so forget about it. If it does get offered to you and it's put on a plate, then by all means take it. But don't waste your time chasing it. Because while all this is going on, Kell Brook is getting battered. Like his reputation is getting battered. In America mainly, but also like some people in the UK saying that he needs to focus on Errol Spence because it's looking like the perception is that he doesn't want to fight Errol Spence, and we haven't heard anything from Kell Brook throughout all of this. We've heard lots of noise coming from the other way, and he hasn't really addressed the situation. Which I would like to see him address the situation. I mean, I've been a big fan, or I am a big fan of Kell Brook, big supporter of Kell Brook, and I've stuck up for him, a number of times over this. But I would like to see, some kind of statement. I want to hear what's going on, because when he fought Golovkin, I didn't want to see that fight. I don't think hardly anyone did. Then most people thought he was not going to come back down to welterweight. He said he would. He said he wasn't going to give up his title. So here we are. So now you're in a situation where Errol Spence is the mandatory. It's kind of unfortunate with the timing for me, because I think that Kell, Brook and Errol Spence are the two best. Well, I'm not saying that they've proven that. I mean, especially not Errol Spence. But neither Kell Brook hasn't either, to be honest, has he? But I think they are the best two at welterweight. So it is unfortunate that after being out for a while, having suffered quite a bad injury, and now having to lose all this weight, the opponent you have to fight is probably, in my opinion, the most dangerous in the division. But that's life, isn't it? I mean, you can't always script everything perfectly. Do you know what I mean? In an ideal world, you could have a tune-up fight against somebody and then fight against Errol Spence. That'd be perfect. But I don't think Errol Spence is going to let him do that. I think he's been waiting a long time. And I think they understand as well, like, this is the best time really to fight Kell Brook. I think that people can say what they want, and obviously different people have different opinions. And I'm not saying that everybody agrees with me, but I think a lot of people, at least, would accept that Kell Brook is at least as tough a challenge at welterweight as anyone else. I think for Errol Spence, he's the toughest. I think they know that. And I think they also know that they'll have to go over to the UK, which puts a different element to it as well. It's obviously, you're fighting on the other side of, well, not the other side of the world, but like different continent, very hostile crowd. And when I say hostile, I don't mean like kind of hostile, negative style, but just very, very energetic, very, very supportive of Kell Brook, and it'd be like an atmosphere that Errol Spence has never fought in, possibly never will again. So they know this is a very tough fight, and they know that this is a good time to have it. Kell Brook coming back from injury, losing all the weight, long layoff. So if you were Errol Spence's team and they said to you, "Oh, will you kind of wait more time so Kell Brook can potentially be better in the fight?" If I was them, I wouldn't do that. Do you know what I mean? So if you're a general and you manoeuvre yourself, you get your army to a place, you think, right, we'll get here before dawn, and you get the high ground, and you've got that ground, and you keep it, don't you? You don't say, no, like, do you mind sort of moving like slightly to the left, so you've got those woods to your left? You're not going to do it, are you? You're in this position. They know they're in a strong position, so I think now they really are going to press their advantage. So we're in a position, it looks to me like Kell Brook is going to have to fight Errol Spence next. So, let's see it. I mean, let's hear something first of all, and then let's make the fight happen. Amir Khan would have been ideal as a tune-up fight, I think, but it's not going to happen. First of all, because Amir Khan doesn't want to have the fight, and secondly, as I say, I don't think Errol Spence and his team are going to let him. I think they know this is the time for them to do it, and then they're going to press their advantage, because this is, there's a lot. It's perception. A lot of this is perception. Now, for right or wrong, Kell Brook has an image of not really taking on the best competition. I mean, well, that's true. We can't argue with that. We can debate about the reasons for that, and in my opinion, it's not like a one-dimensional thing. Partly his fault, partly other people avoiding him, partly Eddie Hearn's fault as well, I think. But it is what it is. Like, now you're in a position where this fight needs to be made. It needs to be addressed, this situation. I mean, I saw a video about a week ago, some American. He was saying that Kell Brook has, he's always fighting mandatories. He's like, as if he's, the biggest mandatory fighter in boxing. He fought 2 mandatories. So let's just put that straight away, what that is. But he also said that that was his thing before. He always used to say, when it was time for like a big unification fight, when someone wanted to fight him, he'd always say, "Oh no, I can't do that because I've got to fight a mandatory." I mean, total bollocks, absolute rubbish. But all the people in the court, they're all sort of going, yeah, that's right, man, that's exactly what happened. I mean, it wasn't at all what happened. But it doesn't really matter. Like, reality is kind of few and far between, really, in boxing these days. You've got social media somebody can just come and say something with nothing to support it, no kind of real case, no evidence, and people will just go along with it as if this is the reality. It becomes a consensus reality. There's literally never been a time when Kell Brook was offered a fight with somebody like Keith Thurman or Danny Garcia, Manny Pacquiao, and he said, "No, I don't want to fight him. What I want to do instead, I've got to fight Kevin Bizier." I mean, that literally never happened. But does it really matter? Because, perception is pretty much everything, isn't it? So people believe that that's what's happened, and people believe that Kell Brook is ducking Errol Spence. So it needs to get made. I want to see this fight. I want to hear something at least. I want to know what's going on, because it's getting quite annoying for me listening to all this, listening to people saying, he's ducking Errol Spence and blah, blah. And to be fair to Errol Spence, I mean, he's been waiting like his time. He deserves his shot. You know what I mean? It's not really his fault that he's got all these people, just bigging him up constantly and, disrespecting Kell Brook. I think Errol Spence, in my opinion, is probably, along with, I don't know, I'd say him and Brook are probably the better. Thurman, I don't think Keith Thurman can beat either of those two personally, but he's proven really more than both. Well, I don't know, but he's sort of there or thereabouts. Errol Spence deserves his shot, is what I can say. I mean, being fair, I can't really argue with that. And I think Kell Brook needs to say something. We need to hear what his intentions are, because it's getting difficult really to defend him if he's not saying anything. So I want to see this situation addressed. If it is a case of like the Amir Khan fight, then say something. Let us know what's going on. So I'd be interested to know what other people think about this, because mostly what I'm hearing is quite negative from people, and that's why I want to see this situation addressed. Also, I want to see the fight. I want to have something to look forward to. For me, these are definitely two of the best welterweights. I think we can all agree on that. So I want to see this fight get made. And that's what I think. So let me know what you think about it. And thank you very much for watching.